Just give me a second. Let's just make sure the stream is set up well. Once I know it's live and we're good, we can get started. What's good, YouTube? If you're watching this after the fact, today's gonna be a long stream day. You know, I've been streaming generally for like an hour and a half. The Friday Night Magic streams are generally a little bit over 3 hours, so we're gonna do our best to build a format so that when I do go live, we go live for more than an hour and a half. I have some ideas, some things we can do today to make things a bit more fun. So if you're watching this after the fact, you enjoy videos like this, you guys can like the video, you can comment, and then because we're gonna do a lot of funny things today. Can potentially play games of Commander if we get people that want to play games of Commander on Spell Table. And then we could also I got a video for us to watch, and we're also going to be building this Commander deck, which I feel like is what we generally do when we do streams. We got a little bit of a new setup over here, as you can see. And then we may do just take it some time to answer questions and do things like that later. And yeah, so right now the commander we're going to be building today is Timothar, the Baron of Bats. This is a vampire commander deck, and one that I never see anybody play, one that I think for a good reason, because I think this commander is just not that good. So let me preface this by saying that this commander deck is not, it will never be as good as choosing a different vampire commander. So I know we got some people commenting saying, why do I build bad why do I build bad commanders? And because it's fun, and who cares, and it's extra rewarding if we win a game with a bad deck. From my perspective, it's fun. Thank you for, hey, I got this new thing. Look at this, look at this. The Yog Father blesses you for liking the video. Thank you for liking the video. I appreciate that. What's up, Freshton? Yeah, you could say that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna zoom in, and then look, if you guys have videos you guys want to watch, you guys want to watch on stream, I have this over here. Where is it? I got this, which is like, if I remove myself, this video is called, hold up, it's like not showing. 30 Years of Horror, a Magic the Gathering documentary. I think it's gonna be, it just talks about the art and talks about the lore of Magic the Gathering, which I think is gonna be pretty interesting. So later on, when we're done building this deck, we're gonna go ahead and watch that video and react to it and in real time, and I think it's gonna be fun for everybody to see. So we're gonna be watching that later, which I think will be interesting. But for now, we're building this commander deck. So the commander is Timothar. I call him Timothar. Don't ask me why. So if you hear me call him Timothar over and over again, that's just the way it's gonna be. So Timothar says, ward, discard a card, which to me already, I kind of like that. Whenever another non-token vampire you control dies, you may pay 1 mana and exile it. If you do, create a 1/1 bat creature token with flying. It gains, when this creature, the bat, deals combat damage to a player, sacrifice it and return the exiled card to the battlefield tapped. Which I think sounds really funny because we're playing vampires, and I just like the idea of vampires turning into bats. That's the entire purpose of the video, is completely based on that imagination. So if you appreciate that imagination, you can like this video, and we're gonna build this deck. Look, I already have a deck over here, and I've added a lot to it, and I've play tested it a lot, and it still stinks. So I'm gonna show you all the win condition And I have a lot of some cards that I bought over here. These cards are like 25 cents, a lot of them. But I think that it's going to create a really janky win condition that is going to be really funny to see. Like, I like to create shock in my games of Commander, and I think this win condition would make people laugh. So I'm going to pause the weekend for a second so I can just really explain the win condition. So Timothar, you already got, all you guys already know that he creates bats, right? I think that's pretty simple to understand. But if I zoom in over here, he's creating the bats when things are sacrificed. I can pay 1 mana, right? So after I deal damage with the bat, this gets sacrificed and the creature enters the battlefield. So what if I play a ton of vampires that enter the battlefield and deal damage to our opponents and then cause me to gain life? So that I could have a turn, have these attack with flying because they're generally flying. They deal damage. I then sacrifice them on my opponent's end step to bring them as bats, so that as they deal flying damage again during the next turn, they re-enter the battlefield, which then will trigger that draining effect again. And then we play cards like a where is it? We play cards that deal damage on creatures dying. We got sack outlets, obviously, to sacrifice our vampires. And then we also are playing cards. This is a proxy, which means this, I bought this proxy for 75 cents. You guys can go to printingproxies.com to get your own proxies for 75 cents. This is not a real card. Bloodletter of whatever that word is. And then if an opponent would lose life during your turn, they lose twice that much life each turn. And then we can add things like Sanguine Bond, so that as we're draining our opponents and dealing damage to them, as we gain life, we deal damage to them again, which essentially doubles the damage again, kind of. And, you know, I think it'd just be something pretty interesting. So, but playtesting this deck has led me to a place where I just can't find... I'm not even sure this is going to make sense what I'm about to say, but like I can't really find the correct flow of the deck. Where like I feel like when I play games, I like to have the same 3 turns happen every time I play a deck, and usually when I can build a deck to a point where I have the same 2 to 3 turns every time I play, the deck feels extremely consistent, which means that I generally win a lot more games because the deck plays consistent. And I'll tell you, I have a problem with this deck and maintaining this consistency. So I feel like that's going to be the goal of today's stream, is to develop something that as we play test feels consistent, so that we can bring it to play games on Friday. So when I do my Magic streams on Friday, you guys can see this game or this deck in action. So I have some cards over here that I need to grab, which I think are these, and this, and this, and that's a... Hope you guys are having a good day. It's about to snow like crazy where I am, so I don't even have work tomorrow. My work already got called off because they already called a state of emergency. So I'm just chilling. I don't see any vampires here. Let's see. I think we'll start with this, and then let's move Timothar over there. Let me separate this. I'm about to go into deep brain mode, so if I'm a little bit quiet, just understand why I'm being quiet. Okay. I'm gonna put the music up for a second while I think about this.
face. Everywhere I go, I drag this coffin just in case. My body's tremble as it shivers down my spine. Adrenaline kicks in, shifts into overdrive. Your secrets keep you sick, your lies keep you alive. Snake eyes every single time you roll with crooked dice. Laugh out the darkness as it tried to pull me down. The kind of dark that haunts 100-year-old house. I wrestle with my thoughts, I shook the hand of doubt. Running from my past, I'm praying feet don't fail me now. I've lost my goddamn mind. It happens all the time. I can't believe I'm actually meant to be here, trying to consume the drug in me is you. And I'm so high on misery, can't you see? I got these questions always running through my head. So many things that I would like to understand. If we are born to die and we all die to live, then what's the point of living life if it just contradicts? Laugh out the darkness as it tried to pull me down. The kind of dark that haunts 100-year-old house. I wrestle with my thoughts, I shook the hand of doubt. Running from my past, I'm praying feet don't fail me now. I've lost my goddamn mind. It happens all the time. I can't believe I'm actually meant to be here, trying to consume the drug in me is you. And I'm so high on misery, can't you see?
Oh, an enchantment called Avatar Enchantment Obsessive Pursuit. Avatar Enchantment Obsessive Pursuit. 1 second. Ooh, okay. That's a new card. I've never seen that before. Enter at the beginning of your upkeep, you lose. This is a brand new card. I've never seen this before. That sounds really interesting. When we play test, we're gonna have to see. I'm gonna remember this, and we're gonna see if this flows with the deck, because I think a lot of times when we're attacking, we're not sacrificing anything only until after things attack, if that makes sense. So I just don't think that the two things kind of, I like the idea, that would be really good. I just think that it won't trigger at the time when it ordinarily would need to trigger, if that makes sense. But we'll see. It's a great suggestion.
I've been beat down, broken, used, motherfucker. I drank with Hank, talked blues with Billy, rocked with Ron, sang with Shotgun Willie. Went from small time Billy to big time Bobby, from 3-day-old chili to sake with wasabi. I'm home. You never met a motherfucker quite like me. No, not like me. Did I not like me? Hey, like me. No more being
I have two mirrored landscapes.
or being ignored by the think straight sinners. I used to smoke pinners while my mom's
Yeah, I have two of them.
Now I smoke bombs.
Hey, not legal. I gotta take one out.
Here, I'm a and I'm home. You never met a motherfucker quite like me, and not like me, that dead like me, hey, like me.
Maybe I'll find a swamp later, but I'll keep this off to the side.
Never thought I'd go as far in life as this. Never made par and I could give two shits.
I'm gonna go like
Never wanted to
this.
sell cars 'cause my dad was a dick. Never wanted a guitar till I heard a lick like this.
Okay, so that's that. We have to get the creatures situated. So let's look at the creatures first.
Rock with old glory tracks.
So what we're gonna do right now is sort the creatures by mana value, and then decide which creatures we want, which creatures work, which creatures don't work, just so that we can play the deck well. Because I feel like there's so many vampires. I think it's just more about having the right vampires than it is about having a ton of vampires. And I can already see some that I think that I could just swap out for other cards that could be more impactful. This is we're playing Timothar. I call him Timothar, but his name is Timothar. Looks like this. I should be able to show the card right here. That's the commander we're playing. It seems like we got a lot of 3-drops, man. Yeah, we got a lot of 3-drops. I think I would like to kind of cut down on these 2-drops over here, if we can. Oh, Edgar Markov. I have Edgar. I play mono red Edgar Markov. It is crazy good. It's a lot of fun. But I have a lot of commander decks. Guys, if the stream gets taken down because of the music, I'm just gonna go live again. Because YouTube sometimes does that. It hasn't done it recently, but if YouTube does, then I'm just gonna restart the stream. And we'll just deal with it. So I think right now what we're gonna do is we take a look at this, and I'm gonna grab all the vampires that I think I want to add to this. Remembering, if you're new to the stream, what we're doing right now is turning our vampires into bats, dealing damage with the bats to have these bats sacrificed so the vampires can re-enter the battlefield as themselves. And then we are picking vampires that have drain abilities, so our opponents lose life as these re-enter, and then we gain life. So we're just trying to, it's an ETB deck, we're just having things re-enter the battlefield. Running Bloodline Bidding. What is Bloodline Bidding? Bloodline Bidding. Is that the card we were just looking at? That is a good card. I could run that. That would be this is a good recommendation. Sanguine Bond. If I can find a copy of Sanguine Bond, I'll probably add it. Remember, if you're new to the stream or if you like the video, it really helps out a lot, and you force me to say thank you when you like the video. And the more people like the video, the more YouTube pushes the video, which just helps me. Oh, I do have Sanguine Bond, which just helps me a lot, immeasurably. These are not vampires I want to, cards I don't want to play. So these, thank you. Hey, thank you for liking the video. The Yog Father blesses you. Thank you for liking the video. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I know there's more vampires that I pulled. Hey guys, you're gonna make me press this button a lot. Both of you who just liked the video, the Yog Father blesses you. Thank you guys, I appreciate it. I know it's corny, but I gotta make the stream unique somehow. I know I have vampires over here somewhere. So just give me a second while I find these vampires. I don't think it's here though. Nah, it's definitely not here. If we see a swamp, we gotta grab that swamp though. That has to happen. Whoa. Let's see what we got over here. Poison the waters. Hey, that's a swamp. Holy day. Is it gonna snow where you guys are at? Because we're like, I can't even go to work tomorrow because of the snow. So I'm just chilling for the next couple of days. I'm trying to see if I can break my streaming record of time being on stream. Should be cool. Bog imp. I know I had vampires somewhere, dude. Like a bunch of really janky ones. Maybe that was the pile that I already grabbed, but I just thought I had more. Another creature dies. No. At the beginning of your end step, an opponent lost life this turn. Put a +1/+1 counter on target vampire you control. I don't know. A mild winter here in Washington. Oh wow, yeah, Washington is crazy far. Only one snow day. Yeah, I feel like that's lucky for you, man. Yeah, it's been snowing a lot over here. I'm gonna grab the Sign in Blood. I don't know if I added Sign in Blood to the deck. I'm gonna throw that off to the side. So we got some other cards over here as well. Do we want to play this and this? Yeah, these are two more cards that I was looking for. Did I just look at this? Final parting. I doubt anything's inside this pile. Oh, guys, the chorus is about to come on. I'm about to put the volume way up. Deal with it.
Because baby, you're gonna be the one that saves me. And after all, you're my wonderwall.
Alright, back to normal. I wish I had a button where I could just increase and decrease the volume. This is interesting. I don't know, I'm gonna leave this here. You guys let me know what you think. Do we include the Skeleton Vampire? Keep in mind that this is gonna get bounced over and over again. So we get that enter the battlefield ability a lot. Yeah, I think I got all the cards, guys. I can't find them anymore. Yeah, I think we're good. We got everything. So let's just go ahead and add this stuff, and then we'll go from there. It's not the most powerful card, but you know, it does put creatures into play. We do have like some like blood artists and things like that, so it does put a lot of vampires in play that we can sack. So that's really a lot of creatures in play, I mean, that we could sack. I mean, our bats, can we just call bats vampires, I guess? So technically. If you think that I'll never win a game with this deck, just remember to please like the video so that I know that you think this deck has no chance of winning. Okay, so we're gonna look through these and we're gonna decide which vampires are gonna be the ones that we can keep and the ones that we can't keep. Let's do this. Hey, thank you for liking the video. The Yog Father blesses you. I see that. Thank you. What's crazy is like I'm not seeing a lot of vampires that I think that I bought. Let me check my TCG player account to see if I'm missing some vampires. Let me just check something real quick. Let me just see if I'm still missing some cards. Yo, TCG, I don't know if these guys are the same thing, but every time I sign into TCG player, I gotta sign in every time. And I hit the button that says stay signed in, and it never stays signed in. Every time. I don't know if that happens to you guys, but it's like annoying. It makes me sign in every time. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, just stay signed in, please. Soren the Mirthless. Maybe that Soren isn't for this deck then. Gloster, Highborn, Vampire, Warlord, Nazar, Arrogant, Outlaw. Alright, I may have everything already. Yeah, the bat tokens. Keru, Bloodsucker, Master of Rights. No, I'm still missing a giant pile of vampires. Wow, I'm missing. Look how many vampires I'm missing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 vampires. So this deck is gonna. On your computer, it stays. Maybe it's just something going on with mobile. Look at this. This is what we're missing right now. Look. Whenever Bloodmist Infiltrator attacks, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, you can't be blocked. Yeah, I feel like that's gonna be good in here because we're gonna have creatures to sacrifice. This one over here. This is another drain. ETB flying. Target opponent loses 1 life, you gain 1 life, so it's more drain. So a lot of these cards pretty much just do the same exact thing. Target opponent loses 1 life. Dude, this one's crazy. Look at this one. Target opponent loses 1 life for each vampire you control. Yeah, so we're missing a lot of cards in actuality now that I think about it. So maybe building this deck, whatever we build right now is just not gonna be as, it's just not gonna be as, what up B? It's just not gonna be as good as I think it could have been. So I have to take everything you do today with a grain of salt. But I do like these, the Bloodlord of Vazgoth. The Vampire Warlord has the ability for me to sacrifice creatures, so just in the sack outlet, which I think is good. And a Skeleton Vampire. I think I'm gonna take out the Butcher, even though the Butcher of Malakir is really gonna help me to kind of end games at 7 mana. I just don't think I want to have that. I'd rather have this Skeleton Vampire. At 5 mana, I think this Scion of the Swarm can definitely go. We need the Blood Witch. And then the Champion of the Dusk we can keep because that draws me cards. Scion of the Swarm can stay, so I mean can go, so we're gonna take that out. I think we can, let's go. Cryptgas can go. Kalidas, I don't think is gonna do much for us. Bloodline Keeper. I think these 3 cards can go. And yeah, no, we just dumped a ton of 4 drops for 5 drops. But I feel like some of these 5 drops are just more impactful. Like imagine just keep reoccurring the Necromancer over and over again, just bringing back something from the graveyard. I feel like feels really good. I feel like this deck is gonna end up becoming like a toolboxy kind of deck than it is like a removal tribal like how I normally build vampires. Do we want to keep this Bloodline Keeper? I mean, Bloodline Keeper kind of acts like a Crater Hoof in a way, because when it transforms, it turns into it gives all our vampires +2/+2. But you know, that's essentially 5 mana I have to play, and I have to have 5 zombies, 5 vampires in play. So I don't know. I think we're gonna take this out for a different vampire. I like this because our commander has war, discard a card, and I feel like we can just force people to dump a ton of cards. Yeah, Dark Imposter, when you got a lot of mana, the card is good. The Vain Witch Coven. Gehenny, keep. I think that there's... You know, I play these cards, but to me, they just don't feel good when I play this deck in particular. The Nighthawk and the Scavenger. I feel like these are classics, but they have no ETBs, and it just feels like it doesn't synergize with what I'm trying to do. So I'm gonna take these cards out. Song is like telling me what to do. We'll play this. You know, I feel like just being able to take people's creatures is always gonna be good. For 3 mana. And then we'll take out the Nighthawk, and then we'll add the Colostria Highborn, so that as creatures or vampires get sacrificed, I can pay mana to drain again. So this is just going to be a lot of life gain inside this deck, and I think unfortunately I'm still missing a ton of vampires, so a lot of the stuff is still going to change. So we're just going to keep this like this for now for our creatures. Guys, when we're done, I'm going to end up playtesting this. Gonna end up playtesting this, and then we're gonna watch got a YouTube documentary over here. A Magic, it says 30 years of horror of Magic the Gathering documentary. So we're gonna end up watching this video when we're done building the deck, just so you guys know. Let's just like that. So I saw a Sanguine Bond. Japanese one. I think I saw it over here somewhere. I feel like Veto of Dusk Rose would be good. Let's add that Sanguine Bond. Everything is a proxy, guys, just so you know. I'm very upfront about that. This is not a real card. Just so you know. It looks like a real card. So when you see things, it's not what it seems. 5 mana card. Court of Ambition, I want to keep. Heraldic Banner will keep. What do we take out for? I like the Grafted War Gear. Maybe we just take out a piece of removal. And then we'll stick with this, and then we'll play test out. We'll play test this. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how when this deck is done. We play it on stream. Once I win a game, then it's allowed to have its own deck tech on the channel. I like to make shorts of decks, see how people react to it, and then decide whether I want to make the deck tech or not. Because sometimes, like, some decks are just Sometimes some decks are just people would rather not see the deck because it's not exciting. All right, let's just shuffle this and then really good, and then we'll see what we get here. All right, look. Yeah, I may end up taking out a single target removal spell and adding that at some point. Just because the deck is really reliant on dealing damage with flying creatures, and I feel like Crippling Fear would be good to clear out some flyers and stuff like that. Okay. Alright, look. So I could technically take this, what we're about to do right now, and turn into a YouTube video, so I'm gonna pause the music so that I don't get that flagged. And then let me go ahead and add a remix that I made as background music. Hopefully this isn't that loud. Oh, sorry for your ears, guys. Let me check the mixer to see. All right. Okay, so let's see how this plays. So for reference, what we are playing is Timothar, the Baron of Bats. So ward, when we discard a card, or our opponents have to discard a card to target him with a spell, which is cool. Whenever non-token vampire we control dies, you can pay 1, we exile it. If we do, we'll create a 1/1 bat. And when this bat deals combat damage, it's sacrificed, and then whatever creature was exiled will re-enter the battlefield. So that's pretty much the deck. So let's just draw 7 and see how this is gonna play. So drawing 1, Blood Artist, 2, Bloodletter, Blood, Swamp, 4, Arcane Signet, cool. Land, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Scald Vampire. 6, yes. One more land. Vermin Gorger. Not a bad hand. I mean, Sack Outlet, Ramp. If we get another land, we can get the Bloodletter on the battlefield early, which is nice. And let's see what we get. So hopefully this appears. We're gonna imagine somebody passes the turn. We're gonna draw a Champion of the Dusk, which can draw us cards at some point, which is cool. All right, so we'll just go ahead and play the swamp because that's all we can do, and then we pass. Taking our turn. Yeheni, which is great. But I think everybody knows what we do here. We go to, we get the Arcane Signet on the battlefield, and then pass. So now, read the bones. So if we don't cast this card right now, we could miss out on our land drop this turn. And I think in this deck, I really want to hit my land drop really bad. So I'm gonna do 1, 2, 3, losing 2 life, casting the Read the Bones over here. So we're gonna scry 2, draw 2. So scrying into 2 lands, okay? And I think I'm just gonna draw the both of these because why not? So we'll draw 2 lands. We play the Path of Ancestry tapped and then pass. And you can see, I mean, like technically we're doing things. We're drawing cards, moving through the deck. How many cards do I have in my hand? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So we draw into a Dark Prophecy. Creature you control dies, draw a card, lose life. Not the worst. We can play a land for turn, which is cool. So now we're at 5 mana, which feels great. So we could either, I think what we do first is, I really would like to get Yahenni on the battlefield. Check this out. If we have 5 mana, right? I could spend all 5 mana, get the Dark Prophecy and the Vermin Gorge on the battlefield. Yeah, I mean, if I was playing like super competitive, I would definitely do that. But these decks are bad. I just, you know, I like winning with bad decks. So I think we use the 5 mana that we have to get the draw engine on the battlefield, and then a vampire. I don't mind sacrificing because technically the next turn we could play Yahenni, sacrifice a Vermin Gorger, and draw a card so that we guarantee our land drop. And then if we get that land drop, or if we top deck into a land, we could then play the Skeletal Vampire here, which gives us 2 bats to sacrifice to draw cards off of the Dark Prophecy with the Vermin Gorger. So I feel like the play here is to set up our draw engine. So we're gonna go 1, 2, 3. First is gonna be Dark Prophecy entering. And then 1, 2, and we'll play the Vermin Gorger. And Path of Ancestry lets us scry. So we're gonna scry into a Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx, which is a land that we can pay 2 mana, choose a color, and add mana equal to our devotion to that color, which in this case would be 4. Keep in mind, this is a proxy from printingproxies.com. So if you guys want 75-cent copies of cards that are really good, you can get that over there. So we're gonna leave this on the top because that card's really good. We're gonna pass. Drawing, we got our land drop, which is great. We'll play that Nykthos for turn. And now we can start to have fun. So I can go 1, 2 and tap this and add 4 mana to my mana pool. I don't even know why that even matters, but I guess it does. 3, 4. It gives us 1 open mana. Does that matter right now? Wait, sorry guys. My nose is like... That was an odd experience. I think we just get the Skeletal Vampire into play. And then this gives us an open mana to scare people with. And then we'll play the Skeletal Vampire. This is gonna enter and we're gonna create a bat. 1 bat and 2 bats. We're doing powerful things, people. We also can sacrifice the bat with our Skeletal Vampire to regenerate him, which I think is cool. I think in this instance, I don't think we can really do anything, so we just pass. What do you guys think of the deck so far? We got no removal in hand. I think during our opponent's turn, we can tap the Vermin Gorger to sacrifice a bat. Each opponent is gonna lose 2 life, and then we're gonna gain 2 life, and then we're also gonna draw a card. There's the removal we were just talking about. Okay, we're gonna untap, and then we will draw for turn into a swamp, which is excellent. We'll play the swamp. We're hitting our land drops, people. That's really good. And now I think if I look at my mana correctly, I could go, let's go the Encroaching Wastes. We can go 1/2, tap Nykthos to generate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana. Ooh, that's good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes. Watch. And now we can do what the deck was meant to do. We play Timothar, a commander. I know it says Timothar, but I'm just going to call him Timothar. So Timothar is in play when we still have 1, 2, 3, 4 mana open, which is nice. And I think personally what I would like to do is to play the Blood Artist. So we're gonna go Path of Ancestry, this Blood Artist, Scry, and Colostria Highborn. Yeah, that's just basically another Blood Artist. We definitely, just so you guys see it, we can pay a black, and when a creature we control dies, we can have people lose life. I mean, technically, now that we know that's on the top of our deck, I could sacrifice something right now and draw it right now to play it. So let's do that. We're gonna tap the Vermin Gorger to sacrifice the bat. Somebody's gonna lose 1 life. We're gonna gain a life. Each opponent's gonna lose 2 life. We're gonna gain 2 life. And then we draw a card. We'll draw the Highborn. And then we have to think. Because I need my mana open for Timothar. So we're not gonna do anything. Because look, just so you guys know what I mean. We have to pay 1 mana to exile the creature we control when it dies, when we exile it. So I think what we do is we go to combat. We'd deal damage with the vampire. And then, oof, I don't know if we want to do that actually. Because now we can't sacrifice the Vermin Gorger. Let's go back in time to when we had this bat. We could put this card back on top of the library, because if we play this correctly, I could have went to combat, dealt damage with the vampire, right? And then during second main phase, tapped this, sacrificed the skeletal vampire instead. We're just gonna draw us the card, drain, give us life, and then draw us that Highborn, but then paying 1 mana to exile this with Timothar, turning the skeletal vampire into a bat. Now that makes more sense. And then we pass. And then we untap. We draw into a Phyrexian Altar, which is great. It's also a proxy, just you know, full transparency. Now let's just imagine that an opponent has some sort of can we kind of go off this turn? I think we might be able to do something pretty powerful right now. So let's first go to combat and attack with the 2 bats. They're gonna deal damage, which is the damage sound. And then Scout, this is gonna sacrifice, which is gonna deal damage with the Blood Artist. We're also gonna draw a card from Dark Prophecy, and we draw into an Innocent Blood. And then Scout the Vampire is gonna enter, and then we're gonna get 2 bats. Yeah, the Vampire was great. This is a great choice to add. So thank you to the person who recommended it. Yeah, I think the ramp would make more sense, but I feel like Timothar is only good when I have a board state that's built, as opposed to just having him enter the battlefield. I feel like if he was more aggressive, then I think I would want to have a lot more ramp, because I think this deck doesn't necessarily need him. He just makes the deck better, if that makes sense. Because technically I could still be sacrificing and drawing even if he wasn't here. He just kind of lets me abuse it. So now that I had that, we can tap 1, 2, and we're gonna tap Nykthos again, adding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 mana to our mana pool, which feels amazing. We're gonna go Path of Ancestry, playing the Colostria Highborn. So out of the 9 mana that we have, we now have 8 left. No, but you're definitely on point. Finger, what's your name? Fingerboarding? Oni Finger. That's nice. So we have a land on the top. I think I'm gonna keep that on the top, because as we start to sacrifice the creatures, that can be the land that we play for turn. I'm just gonna call you Oni. Look, and then I have 8 mana. I can use 3 of the 8 mana to play a Phyrexian Altar. And I have 3 of the 8 mana, which leaves me at 5. I can use 4 of it to play the Bloodletter of that word that I don't know how to pronounce. And then we can sacrifice a tapped bat, which is going to draw us a card, which is going to be the Swamp. We'll lose a life. We'll generate another black mana, so we're at 2 mana in our mana pool. We'll use one of those manas to activate the Highborn. So target opponent is gonna lose 2 life. We're gonna gain 2 life because the Bloodletter is in play. If an opponent would lose life during your turn, if an opponent would lose life during your turn, they lose twice that much life during your turn instead. So they're going to lose 4 every time we activate this ability, and we're going to draw a card. So then they're also going to lose another 1 from Blood Artist, which is going to be 2. And then so let's do that whole thing. So basically every time we activate this, our opponents are going to be taking, one opponent will take 6 damage. So what I can do is sack one of the bats with the Vermin Gorger to activate this again. Each opponent's going to lose 2 life. Because of the Bloodletter, they're going to lose 4 life. We'll pay 1 over here, so they're going to lose One opponent's going to lose 4 more life, and then another 2 life. Oh, this is getting insane. This is hard to keep track of. A creature died, so we're going to draw a card, which is the vampire spawn. Oh, man. Each opponent loses 2 life. We gain 2 life. Nice. And then we can sack the bat here, doing the whole thing again, paying the 1, so somebody's gonna lose 6 life. And then we can use, wait, but that mana that I'm using is doing that thing. We'll play the swamp for turn. I think I was supposed to draw a card there, which is another swamp. Or did we play the swamp for turn? No, I don't think I did. So now we have 4 mana, and then we just kind of keep doing the thing. The deck is doing the thing, guys. It's working, you know? Because then I could sack the vampire again, turn this into a bat. Eventually get this on the battlefield, and then sack to do the same thing again. Yeah, that's why I got them both. We got the Rakdos right here and Dimir. It creates Grixis. Grixis is my favorite color combination, so that's why I got these 2 tattoos. But yeah, I think the deck works, guys. Fun. That actually worked out really well. I'm kind of surprised at how good it played, considering we only draw this many cards, you know? It's pretty fun. So I think what we're gonna do next is I'm gonna turn on this video, and then we're gonna watch and react to this documentary that I found that I think is gonna be interesting for all of us. And it's right over here. So let me go ahead and remove the music over here. Let's remove this, and let us see. This video is about, 1 second, let me remove myself. It says 30 years of horror of Magic the Gathering documentary. So it just talks about the art, the origins of Magic the Gathering, and so I think it's gonna be pretty interesting to see how people reacted to it when Magic the Gathering first released. And we got a lot of new players in the channel, so I think it's pretty cool to watch stuff that are related to the history of the game. So I'm interested to watch it. I think it's gonna be cool. But it's just, but the what you see here, this content warning, is just about the art of the card. It's nothing like insane. It's just art of cards. So let's get this going.
The House of the Devil is a silent film directed by Georges Méliès in 1896 and is often cited as the first horror film in the new medium of motion pictures. Fast forward 127 years later to 1993 and the release of the first collectible card game, Magic the Gathering. Its first set, Elfo, was designed in a way that played off nearly every fantasy trope available, from knights to mages and dwarves to dragons. But among these cards there was something darker lurking within. Demons with pentagrams scrawled upon their forehead, skeletons riding undead horses, and ritualistic sacrifice. While over a century separates the House of the Devil.
I'm also going to like the video, and I'm going to put the link to the video inside the description as well, guys, just so you know. Just out of respect for Dice Try, the creator over here.
Was designed in a way that played off nearly every fantasy trope available, from knights to mages and dwarves to dragons. But among these cards, there was something darker lurking within. Demons with pentagrams scrawled upon their forehead, skeletons riding undead horses, and ritualistic sacrifice. While over a century separates the House of the Devil and the introduction of Magic the Gathering, both represent a first go at horror in their respective mediums. Both are rudimentary compared to what would come, but both show a devotion to the idea of bringing fear to life. This is Magic the Gathering's timeline of horror. "1993 saw the release of Alpha and is the beginning of what I would define as the classic era of horror in Magic, one that spanned to the year 2007. This era is most notably characterized by a grotesque artistic style, one that permeated through every set. Horror art, like all art during the earliest years of this game, was
What is that? Oh my god.
an avenue walked by artists with free reign to dig into whatever concepts they wanted, as the art direction in the first years was very loose, if not anything more than a name of a card.
But when we first started out, we were given like the titles of the artwork, and we were pretty much free to come up with whatever we wanted as far as imagery. Nowadays, it's a bit more sort of balanced. Sometimes occasionally you get like one where you have a lot of freedom, but there's a lot of still specific things you have to sort of follow.
Because of this artistic freedom, each artist was allowed to let their imaginations take them wherever they desired. Sometimes you could say this was to a fault, as this era does bring with it cards that history hasn't looked too kindly on, but are a result of a time with little left on the table. The card Invoke Prejudice being possibly the most famous example.
Hey, yo! This is crazy. Look at the hood. Invoke Prejudice? That's kind of insane. I didn't even know that card was real. Would you guys play this card? That's kind of wild, dude.
Within this first era of Magic, there were many artists who helped define what horror looked and felt like, but of them, one of the most memorable was Mark Tedden. His portfolio during this era and his work, which spanned into the second, was some of the game's best, with cards like the Sickening Abomination, the ever-iconic Mind Stab Thrall, the repulsive Mind Ravel, the unsettling Kami of Twisted Reflection, and I could go on and on. In the following year after Magic's release, in 1994, we would be introduced to one of Magic's longest-standing villains in the set, Antiquities, with the cards Phyrexian Gremlins and Priest of Yawgmoth. These Phyrexians were a spawn of Yawgmoth, the Thran eugenist convinced that perfection in beings could be achieved through artifice and the reorganization of organic flesh. This sentiment is something that would carry on to their current design. This concept of modifying one's own body with bio.
How many people have seen this Phyrexian Gargantuan and never realized that there was a person inside of there? I've never realized that was there. I've seen this art before. I've never seen that before. Just saying.
Mechanical enhancements. Thus, body horror would be a reoccurring theme all throughout. Though in these earliest years, the art direction for these creatures held little thematic relation. I wouldn't say that this style of horror, this body horror, took hold until Urza's Saga, and that is where their common themes would truly arise. Defined by artists like Pete Venters on Flesh Reaver, Eviscerator by Michael Sutphin, and Phyrexian Monitor by Carl Critchlow. Speaking to the latter of these three, Carl Critchlow was an iconic artist who has provided masterful works of terror for more than just Phyrexian.
That's a good card right there, guys. That's a good card. It's a fun card.
And whose work bridges into the present day. Carl had a particularly astute sensibility for revolting monsters, exemplified by his work on cards like Exhume, Kataran Slaver, Leveler, and Razorjaw Oni. Carl's extensive history.
I'm gonna be real, like, if it wasn't for this art, I would not be playing the Magic the Gathering. You know, when I first started playing, my dad used to buy me Spawn comics when I was growing up, and the Spawn art style was very similar to this art style over here. So I'm gonna say I would not be playing this game if it was not for these artists.
History working in the comic book industry on such dark classics as Judge Dredd and Flash is something that shines through in a lot of his work he does. For
Literally was just talking about comics, and they immediately bring up comics. That's what I'm saying. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Spawn is sick, dude.
Magic the Gathering. Later, in 1994, would see the release of the set The Dark, which I consider Magic's first attempt at a horror set, though I would be hesitant to call it a resounding success. It was a set whose themes revolved around the blacking out of the sun and the resulting persecution that took place. While it was the first set to feature dark themes in every color, with the card Tivaddar's Crusade being one of the greatest examples of this, the set still lacked a complete, cohesive sense of self. What I mean is that while there were great examples of horror in every color, many of the cards felt like they could have been in any time or place. Nonetheless, horror, demonic imagery, and vile acts would continue to be a defining part of this era, with examples found in every set. Enfeeblement from Mirage painting a picture of hopelessness and suffering. Sleeper's Guile from Urza's Legacy, an act of blood-curdling mutilation, and Reclusive White from Urza's Saga invoking pain and torment. The art of these formative years never shied away from the shocking, and the fear it fostered wasn't that of the shadow behind the door, but rather that of a visceral reaction that could be felt at one's core. Like the gory, exploitative horror films of the 70s. There wasn't anything sophisticated being fostered here, just extreme acts and horrifying creatures. 2004 would change everything though, with the onset of the Champions of Kamigawa block.
It's 2004, everything has changed.
In it were masterful depictions of darker themes that felt unique to the plane, and built upon a cohesive, thematic, and unsettling world. This feudal Japanese-inspired plane wasn't a horror set per se, but rather had art direction that leaned into the unnerving and odd in a cohesive manner. It was a plane that felt alien in so many ways, a setting swirling with unnatural magic and forms. The kami who populated this plane were manifestations of this very notion, their bodies a mockery of the human form, as if they were attempting a shape the host would not allow. It was a time in the era where a shift was beginning to take place, one that held the influences of vintage magic art, while moving in a direction that favored a singular throughput for theme.
How do you look at that and not get excited to play this game? You know what I mean? I feel like it's super iconic to the experience of the game.
Themes and setting.
Ravnica, where ancient guilds rule a city that covers the world. For 10,000 years, their sacred laws protected the peace and cast light in the darkness. But nothing lasts forever. Not even the guilds of Ravnica.
Magic the Gathering would then follow up the Kamigawa block with our first trip to Ravnica in 2005. An honestly awful place, one where dark streets held danger, corruption and violence were at every turn. Within these walls, ruthless judges handed out death sentences on false charges. Ghostly clergymen consumed the souls of their parishioners, and a young woman's body hung from the town square. The card Martyr Rusalka reading, Rakdos cultists hunger for sport in the township square. Her ghost now stands vigil at what has become known as the Tree of Weeping.
Tree of Perdition.
Ravnica was dirty, dangerous, and a vile place, with few guilds without any blood on their hands. One where ghastly ghouls haunted the halls, and abominations crawled underground. I consider Ravnica a test of where Magic the Gathering's sensibilities are at for any given era. As a cornerstone of Magic's identity, you can glean much from how it is represented, and this first visit was the darkest the plane would ever feel. The years would continue on with the trends of the previous, with horror creeping into every set. It had been something which had ingrained itself into Magic's identity.
Just a random idea. What if they took this idea of horror and art style and then integrated it into universes beyond and printed horror versions of whatever beyond universe they wanted to create. I feel like that'd be so amazing.
Sets like Cold Snap circa 2006 would produce the hauntingly beautiful yet macabre art of Feast of Flesh by Volkan Baga, or the cruel grisly card Yxlid Jailer from Future Sight from 2007. It was almost a selling point of Magic the Gathering during this era, and is still fondly remembered for not being shy when it came to gory, dark, and unsavory imagery. While we look back at this kind of art as nothing more than some fun and shocking pieces, we do have to put into context the time period this all took place within. This era, namely the early years, was a time when there was increasing scrutiny towards media that portrayed violence and demonic imagery.
The evidence is in. Satan worship and satanic cults are growing rapidly.
There's two different communities that use this park. One is the pagan or occultic community, and the other community is, of course, the homosexual community.
The children are developing relationships with all these Pokemon creatures.
And on that card, it showed spiritual beings actually being risen up out of the ground, out of their grave. And then he asked his mother, "What does summon mean?" And she said, "Why do you ask that?" And she said, he told her, he said, "Because all the kids on recess go outside on the school grounds, pick up huge sticks, wave them in the air, and say, 'Spirits, enter me.'"
During the 90s, America was going through a second wave of Satan.
I feel like a lot of this stuff, you know, I think that people have a right to protect others and to express information in a certain kind of way. But I think when we sit here, I was reading a book one time and the book was like, refrain from accusing or from pointing the finger at somebody, just ask questions and try to understand. Because I think if most people just took the time to talk to individuals who are a part of the game and then took their word for what they said about whatever they believed about what was going on, like a lot of negativities could be free from spawning because people would just understand what's going on instead of judging.
Satanic panic, where fear over
Huge sticks, wave them in the air, and say, "Spirits, enter me."
During the 90s, America was going through a second wave of satanic panic, where fear over children interacting with black magic, dark fantasy, and satanic imagery riled up the masses in fear that their children would become Satan worshippers. I know it sounds absurd to us now, but this was a real issue that the game had to deal with, one that Dungeons & Dragons knew all too well during the 80s. This topic is a video unto itself, so if you want to learn more, I would suggest you watch this amazing video by Jake and Joel or Magic. The issues surrounding Magic the Gathering and its perceived attempt to pull children towards the occult was so bad that the demon creature type was shelved for many years around this time just to get ahead of any controversies it may cause. To that end, Mark Rosewater reflected on this change in his 2004 article, "Where Have All the Demons Gone?" To which he said,
"So why did demons go away in Magic? Because it seemed like a safe choice in a very unsafe time. Magic was on the cusp of becoming a highly public game. Wizards knew what had happened to D&D when it went through that phase. And remember, at the time, Wizards of the Coast's welfare rested squarely on the shoulders of Magic. We had not yet bought TSR and thus D&D. We had not yet had successes in other trading card games. Wizards was about to make the biggest gamble of its life, and so it took some precautions."
Having grown up in a very religious family myself, I was always acutely aware of the art on any given Magic card, and made sure to avoid showing my mother any such cards, lest she take them all away from me, which resulted in me playing a lot of white. Maybe that's why white is my least favorite color to play to this day. Of course,
That is hilarious. Dude, that's like, maybe that's why the color white exists. So that the people could, when they were designing the game, they were like, oh, let's just create a color where things don't have to be as intense. Hilarious. That's so crazy. Yeah, that's so crazy, right, B? That's so funny.
Of course, such fears would lessen around magic, and it was then open to experimenting more with horror, so much so that I believe it came out of the whole experience better, which brought us into a golden age of horror for the game, in what I call the Renaissance era. This era began with Shadowmoor in 2008 and lasted through until late 2020. During this time, Magic started to explore horror themes in a more nuanced and complex manner. There was a greater focus on building worlds and sets with varied horror themes in mind. The Lorwyn Shadowmoor block, with its shift from a whimsical setting to a darker, twisted one, exemplified this change. Sets like Innistrad delved deep into gothic horror. Rise of the Eldrazi introduced us to the cosmic horrors of the Blind Eternities, and New Phyrexia has produced a fresh, more twisted version of an old
Hail Phyrexia.
threat. Shadowmoor marks the beginning of this era, as it's the first since the Dark where you can sense horror throughout the plane, and in each color. It's in the large hollow eyes of the Kithkin, the diabolical nature of the fairy folk, and the ever-increasing hopelessness that permeates the plane. The Desecrator Hag with her circular teeth is something that has always stuck with me from the moment I saw it. Around this time, we'd be introduced to the artist Stephen Belladin, who started making art for Magic the Gathering and Cold Snap, even crafting the iconic Treacherous Urge in Planar Chaos. But his contributions to horror and art in general really took off in this second era, with art like Unmake, Deathmark, and Surgical Extraction being some of Magic's most standout and blood-curdling horror pieces.
Any favorites yourself? Pieces you're just really proud of that have held up over the years for you?
Yeah, I think my favorite, and it will be for quite some time, I think, is still Surgical Extraction. That's easily my favorite painting I've ever done for Magic. It was this weird blend of, like, there was something personal to it about it that I could really, bring out of the piece, sure. And it was just completely within my wheelhouse. I knew exactly what to do with it as soon as I got the assignment.
His work on Innistrad really helped sell the horror themes of the plane with cards like Sensory Deprivation, Narstad's Scrapper, and Invasive Surgery. His art was always a league above, and I doubt this era would have had such an impact without him. Following the Lorwyn Shadowmoor block came the Alara block, and while most of the shards had a lighter or more high fantasy touch, the hellscape that was the Grixis shard was a feast for the eyes for those inclined to the brutal suffering that brought with it. Cards like Shadow Feed by Dave Kendall are an example of that old school brutality mixed with the forward-thinking style that was on the horizon, a notion that was also showcased on the masterfully abysmal Grixis Slave Driver. My favorite of this block, though, will
It's one of the sickest arts I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen that card before. That card looks so cool.
always be that of Sidraxis Alchemist by Karl Kopinski. Kopinski is an artist who has a keen eye for anatomy, which he uses with visceral detail to bring to life gory yet wholly beautiful works of art that feel real, adding to the horror of everything he does. He began his journey as a magic artist during the Alara block, and everyone could already see his penchant for horror was a level beyond most. His portfolio of horror art would continue to be unmatched, adding cards like the brutal Undead Minotaur from M14, or most notably his work on Vorinclex in New Phyrexia. Kopinski isn't always given horror projects, but when he is, it's sure to be a feast of the macabre. In 2010, we would come face to face with a new kind of horror for Magic the Gathering, that of the cosmic, with the release of Rise of the Eldrazi.
Oh man. The Eldrazi are unfathomable, unknowable. That is kind of their whole shtick. They are otherworldly. They're not even from physical space.
You could say things like unknowable. You could say inscrutable. You could say, beyond our comprehension. But ultimately,
these unfeeling monsters, evocative of H.P. Lovecraft's work, felt fresh and new in the hands of the artists and designers. It was a task that could have been derivative and yet felt original, all while capturing the essence of that which hides in the vastness of our own space. These creatures appeared to serve as a connection between divine beings and corporeal abominations. Mark Tedden returned once again to bring his masterful stroke when designing Emrakul, the standout of the three titans. Not long after, 2011 marked the return of Magic's oldest threat, but the sets mirrored and besieged a new Phyrexia. But this time, something was different. In the classic era, the Phyrexians were a manifestation of black mana, twisted fiends of morbid mutilation. These new Phyrexians now encompass the entire color pie, skewing their identity in different ways. Elish Norn being the most notable of them all. The Grand Cenobite like a priestess of pain, her skin flayed and topped with porcelain. 2011 would also mark the introduction of Magic's true horror first plane. The designers may have brought horror to each plane in one form or another, or have crafted worlds that were unsettling by their very nature, but Innistrad is horror first in everything it does. As a setting, it stands firm in its intent. As such, the designers leaned into every classic Gothic horror trope they could find, a style of design we would come to see more and more of in the future, in that they leaned into what we already knew to help solidify the setting.
But Mark Rosewater kind of took the ball and ran with it with Innistrad with the Gothic horror theme, and really pulled all the tribes together, plus all these other different tropes, and started his design that way. And I was pretty blown away by how it turned out. The fact that, and we're hearing compliments left and right.
As such, the plane is filled with hedonistic vampires.
About the most fun job of all time to just sit there and come up with art for Magic cards.
Vicious werewolves and eerie ghosts, mad scientists and decomposing zombies. This block had a lot of weight on its shoulders as well, as it had to deliver a true horror set while coming after two sets that leaned into horror quite heavily. In fact, it is a challenge the art director at the time, Jeremy Jarvis, speaks to in this article, praising the art for Innistrad. In it, he revealed how they took deliberate steps to ensure each set had a horror feel, but worked with vastly different themes in order to ensure that they stood on their own, even working with different art mediums to achieve this, which really goes to show their dedication to ensuring uniqueness of feel.
I've talked before about using the stable of illustrators working on a given setting to reinforce that setting's visual goals. New Phyrexia was rife with digital painters, not only to really sell the terrible sheen of metal, but also so I could redirect for the look of Innistrad, which is a more grounded, relatable, and straightforward place, and would benefit from a more traditionally painted feel.
With such a focus on horror over the course of 3 straight years, the Magic team took a bit of a break on focusing on such sets, though like with every set, darkness still permeated each plane. In 2012, we returned to Ravnica, though this venture felt less dark than our previous visit, but only in comparison to what came before, as it was still a plane where the Rakdos and Orzhov guilds brought with it sinister themes. In 2015, we saw the release of the Battle for Zendikar block, 2 sets which added to the ever-expanding canon of the Eldrazi. With the variants afforded by this creature type by their very nature, each instance of them upon a plane manages to still feel fresh, as the artists are able to take these entities in many directions, from the bizarre fleshy sacks of the Eldrazi Sky Spawner to the kaleidoscope of oily colors in the card Kozilek's Translator. The Eldrazi will always spark both imagination and fear whenever they're present in a set, though it would prove to be too much in a short span the coming year.
Remember that time when you were a human on Innistrad and all you had to worry about was spirits, vampires, werewolves and zombies? Happy.
2016 would mark Magic's second take on its classic horror plane Innistrad, with the Shadows over Innistrad block, a pair of sets who would aim to tap into both Gothic horror and Lovecraftian horror, a mix that may have proven to be an oversaturation of ideas, and as such didn't accomplish either with any certainty. In the first set of the block, Shadows over Innistrad, we got the plane we have come to expect, with all the trappings of classic horror, but with the follow-up Eldritch Moon adding Emrakul to the mix seemed to push out what made Innistrad interesting, for more of what we had already dealt with in the previous year. This is really where I would say the issue lies though, as I feel if we got more of a break before reintroducing an Eldrazi Titan again, it may have had more impact. Perhaps if they waited a couple more years, it would have been more exciting at the time. Alternatively, they could have taken a lighter touch and simply leaned more into the idea of madness gripping the plane. An example drawn to the most famous of this style, Lovecraft, who often does this with his short stories, in regards to his old gods. in that he provides horror through their influence rather than through their direct presence. In 2017, we'd be introduced to the plane of Amonkhet, a plane with a dark mystery behind it, and a lingering death all throughout it.
Yeah, I think a lot of that information you just said was very subjective. I think that art is cool. I think a lot of people think that art is cool.
Death is the key theme here, a sort of dread that hovers over everything, be it the endless sands that surround the city, or the rites of passage where death is the reward. Amonkhet, in this first set, had something special, and when the designers can pull off this more nuanced sense of dread, one which permeates through the entire plane, then we as the players are more invested in the mysteries behind it all. With the hour of devastation, the veil was cracked, and something was lost. From Ixalan in 2017 and on, horror would take a back seat, perhaps due to an oversaturation from all the previous blocks. Even our third take on Ravnica would be a watered-down version from even the second visit, with each guild no longer having the bite they once did. Even Rakdos felt nowhere near the same as it once had. I think back to the act of the hanged girl, her body on display for no other reason than the whims of this guild. Now Rakdos, while dark, was little more than a morbid circus. Throne of Eldraine managed to work in some very interesting pieces of horror by leaning into the grim fairy tales, but I would never call it a horror set in any regard. In Theros Beyond Death circa 2020, there would be some unsettling and supernatural takes on the plane's version of the afterlife, but beyond that, there was a noticeable shift towards placing horror-first sets on the back burner. This isn't to say that the latter years of this era did not produce some amazing horror pieces.
Like, the horror is gone, and then the picture they show is like a floating turtle. I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna get that picture to show
Towards
again.
placing horror-first sets on the back burner. This isn't
I don't know why I find that funny.
Say
It's
that
just
the
like,
latter
it's not getting horror anymore. It's not even turtle, it's a frog.
years of this era did not produce some amazing horror pieces. No, quite the opposite. The artists providing work for some of the more macabre cards in the game were producing artwork that stood above much of what came before. But such were the exception and no longer the rule. There was a shift happening, where a glossy sheen had slipped over everything in the game, which acted to dull some of the game's rougher and harsher edges. It was at this point it really set in that Magic was changing. It wasn't anywhere near as dark as it had been even 5 years prior. It was at this point in my research when I had to stop myself and ask why it felt that way. It was around this time in the latter 2010s and early 2020s that Magic was once again becoming a cultural touchstone. As such, I believe they wanted to shift their image and define themselves for a new era. If the Renaissance era brought with it greater focus on top-down horror design, then the next era would be the catalyst for a more nuanced take on horror.
Universes beyond.
The year was 2021. The moon was full and werewolves lurked in the shadows, marking our return to the beloved horror plane of Innistrad. As a plane derived from variations of the horror genre, it decided to continue this tradition by making folk horror the focal point of its themes and design. As the humans of this plane could no longer rely on the angels, they turned from religion to wild and old magic. Among the common cast of characters was a heavy utilization of pagan traditions, old magic, and of course, werewolves. But something felt different this time. Though danger lurked around every corner, there was for the first time this feeling of hope. There was many more instances of humanity holding strong and taking back their land.
I feel like the inhabitants of Innistrad, right? You said whimsy. Does that mean that they're gonna have a party?
We haven't had a chance to ever show humans on Innistrad having a party. It's time for them to show off that they've got a little bit of lightheartedness, they have hope, they have come together, they will face the darkness together.
And while this made for a great story progression, to me, the plane felt like it lost what made it frightening in the first place. If we look back to the first two blocks, humanity was in a state of absolute peril, which doused the setting in a sense of dread. Yet the dread was hardly felt here. Later that year, we would be given the second half of the block with Crimson Vow. Eternal darkness had swallowed the plane, strangeness and terror began to set in, but the focus of the marketing, story, and many of the cards was that of the wedding between Edgar Markov and Olivia Valderin. It was clear now to me where we were heading in terms of horror, and why this was a defining block marking the third era. All of this may sound like the modern era was shaping up to be child's play in comparison to what had come before, but it would be disingenuous for me to make that claim. There was a renewed art direction and world building happening here. In Crimson Vow, we were able to peer deeper into the vampire cultures of the plane. In both sets, green became something more than it had ever been in the past. This new focal point of pagan magic fit in perfectly with Innistrad. The humans were no longer these helpless cattle. There was this arc we had gone on with them. The plane itself had gone through so much and developed over the years. There was nuance in its design now, a matter of design that would push us forward into the future of horror in this game. One of the greatest additions to Magic the Gathering's stable of artists at this time was Dominic Mayer, whom had begun their journey in Zendikar Rising, but was one who first grabbed my attention in the third Innistrad block. Cards like Curse of Hospitality, Gift of Fangs, and his later work crafting the ink alternate art for All Will Be One. There are some artists that come along that demand your attention, and Mayer is one of those artists. I will be paying close attention to this artist going forward, and you should too. As the years went by, the new Phyrexians of Old Mirrodin started popping up from plane to plane. The story began to build in the background as we traveled the multiverse, until everything came to a head in Phyrexia All Will Be One,
You're right, B.
Magic's second horror set of the modern era. If New Phyrexia aimed to define this new version of an old foe, All Will Be One solidified their identity going forward. Just as with the last Innistrad block, the world building felt more its own, more refined. Each color was given enough cards and the space to really sell its own concept of the Phyrexian curse. This set alone holding on to some of Magic's greatest horror art thus far, with the Praetors and their followers exemplifying pain and suffering as a mode to bettering oneself. Machinations of torture were twisted into avenues of perfection. There's also direct comparison that can be made to Dante's Divine Comedy, with the layers of New Phyrexia mirroring the layers of Hell, a deliberate design choice of the art director of the set, Ovidia Cartagena. If the first era could be defined by a shock and gore style of horror, the modern era was a shift to a style that felt like it had grown up. It was mature and nuanced, and aimed to fulfill many different roles. It relied more on robust world building and a cohesive design. It's too early to say what the future of horror will look and feel like in Magic, but with a horror first set on the horizon in Duskmoon House of Horror, we'll soon find out. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this look at Magic's horror history. This was by far my biggest project yet, and if you would like to see more projects like this, then be sure to share with your friends, leave a like, and let me know your thoughts. If this does well enough, then perhaps there will be more larger documentaries or other timelines on this channel. I would also like to give a special thank you to my patrons who support me no matter where my work takes me. And with that, friends, I will catch you in the multiverse.
Video.
Bye.
So the link to that, oh, what the hell? The link to that video is gonna be in the description. I like it was interesting watching how Magic kind of went from being as excessive as it was in the beginning to being a lot more tame, I think, towards the end. I think was pretty interesting to see. And you know, I think that going forward, you know, a lot of what I just think the game doesn't have to be as excessive anymore because it's so popular now. And I think while it got a lot of us into the game, I think that they can start to just create things that are a bit more how do you say, just relatable to like the real world as opposed to a lot of what they were doing in the past. So thank you to, what's his name? Dice Try. I'm gonna go ahead and post this video into the description of the video right here, so that way if you guys want to see more of his videos, you can. So let me just go ahead and do that to be respectful. And yeah, so if you guys have any videos you want to watch, you guys can let me know. And we can watch those videos on stream. We just got done building a commander deck. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then at some point in the future when we go on live stream, if you guys want to play games of Commander on Spell Table, we can. But for now, I'm gonna head out because I want to eat food. I'm kind of hungry, so I'm gonna head out. All right, everybody, always remember, eat healthy. Okay, work out every single day. Most importantly, you guys can remember to believe in yourself. All right, peace out, people.